To do a video series on beginning guitar players. I see a lot of people doing videos on intermediate and advanced and things like that. And I thought, what would have served me well when I just started playing guitar? What kind of information could somebody have told me that would have really saved me a lot of trouble? So I'm going to start doing a series of videos on for you beginning guitar players, beginning songwriters, things like that. This will be the first one, which will be the first pedal that you should get if you don't have any pedals. Let's say you just have a guitar, you've got an amp, doesn't matter what kind of guitar it is, doesn't matter what kind of amp it is, whatever you can afford that's okay. So what we'll do here, got some different pedals here. These are very common, easy to find pedals. We got Ibanez Tube Screamer, Boss Super Overdrive, got an OD3 from Boss, a Boss Distortion DS1, Electro Harmonics Big Muff, and a Boss Metal Zone. So if you are into rock and blues, things like that, these are the two pedals that I would say you should try out. They are virtually the same pedal, except for there's just a few little circuit differences in this pedal. And what that amounts to is, to my ears, this pedal sounds better into a clean amp. This pedal sounds better into an already dirty amp. So definitely go down to like your local guitar shop. Try those both out on an amp as close to the one that you already own, and then you pick which one you want. Now, if you're into a little bit more kind of old school rock and roll, like plugging straight into a tube amp, but you don't have a tube amp, this guy right here, OD3. This one's got a very tube amp type quality to it. You don't need an expensive amp to plug it into. Sounds really good, just the way it is. There's a lot of gain on tap on this thing, which means more distortion or grit. And so that's a very good pedal for anybody that's into still classic rock, roots rock, things like that. Even blues. It's really good for rhythm. Like, this is a great dirty rhythm pedal. And then you kick on something like Super Overdrive or Tube Screamer into that for your lead tone. But maybe you don't want to play lead guitar. Maybe just rhythm guitar is all you want to do. That's a great pedal. Now, if your goal is to get into like some 80s metal, things like that, this pedal will definitely get you into that neighborhood. It's really, I mean, you can even get like some old Black Sabbath tones out of it. Most of the 80s tones are pretty easy to get with this thing, and it sounds good going into a dirty amp too. And, none of these are going to replace like a $5,000 tube amp or a really high-end modeling amp. But these are all quality pedals that you can buy really, really cheap. This thing, I think I paid like $49 for that on sale. This thing was probably the most expensive one, but it only runs, around $110 when it's on sale. These things, you can pick them up all day, for like 40 bucks, 50 bucks. I don't know. It might be a little bit more now after inflation and stuff like that, but pre-COVID, these things were really cheap. And so now, if you want to play like some really heavy, like stoner doom or some shoegaze, things like that, or you're into like the Smashing Pumpkins, that kind of sound, Big Muff, another really amazingly cheap pedal with a big sound. And the beauty of the Big Muff is it takes on. Actually, I shouldn't say it takes on. It overtakes the sound of your amp. Like, pretty much whatever amp you plug this thing into is going to sound like a Big Muff, whereas these ones will sound like kind of a combination of the pedal and the amp. You're going to always hear like the amp's character shining through. But Big Muff pretty much just takes things over and makes it its own. Now, if you're into the really, really heavy stuff like death metal, black metal, things like that, this pedal gets a bad rap, but it will get you pretty much every metal tone you can think of in those genres. It just takes a little bit of tweaking. It's got a very powerful EQ system on it. Just take some time, experiment with it, and you'll be able to dial in just virtually any kind of tone you want. So I'm going to go ahead and do some demos individually of all these in their own separate videos. So stay tuned for that. And then I'm going to do some videos on, what your second pedal should be, your third pedal, fourth pedal, so on. And then probably by then, you'll have everything going and you'll be making your own decisions and you won't really need a lot of input from anybody else. But like I said, this is for people that have literally just, maybe you went to Guitar Center and bought a guitar, or you got one for Christmas or whatever, and you have no idea what to do, or you've been playing for 6 months or a year and you're thinking about getting your first pedal. This is where these videos are going to be going. This is not for guys that are already shredding it up and playing amazing on the guitar and stuff like that. It's not for them at all. Keep scrolling. This is just for the absolute newbies that are getting started, or maybe somebody that's getting back into it after like a 20 or 30 year break and they just really don't know what's out there and what to do anymore. So that's the way it is. So stay tuned for more videos.